Hamakavi Barzel presents Rabbi Nachum Shifren, Torah scholar, author, public speaker, and good friend of the late Rabbi Meir Kahana.
Well, it's another week. We had a hiatus here of about a week while our organization was getting organizing a few things. And so this week's parsha is MISHPATIM. MISHPATIM, of course, is laws, and what a lot of us call rules. You know, it's funny. There's a philosophical discussion that needs to take place here when you deal with Torah study. Torah, of course, means instruction, right? How to do things, meaning how to do the laws that it mandates. I've had a lot of, as you can imagine, probably over 1,000 talks with different kinds of people about this parsha, MISHPATIM. Not a very sexy parsha, not a lot of drama, no pathos, but a lot of laws, a lot of statutes, as it were. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, you know, my mother, she should rest in peace, loved Sandy Koufax. In a moment, you're going to see why I'm talking about Sandy Koufax. Raise your hand if you saw Sandy Koufax pitch in the 1962 World Series, in which he did he pitched a no-hitter. I was there. My grandfather took me. My mother loved him. And, you know, it's an interesting thing. When we talk about this week's parsha, we're going to nail it down to one specific mitzvah or commandment. There's a myriad of different laws that are discussed, but to me, there's a very interesting thing about it's called kibud av ve'em, honoring your father and your mother. Now, this should be instinctive for most of us. Should be. Sometimes it's not. We could have a discussion about that or why that is. You know, a lot of times the World Series takes place during Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur, of course, the holiest day on the calendar, the Jewish calendar, Day of Atonement, when we connect with God. No food, no drink, nothing. All we do is we concentrate on Him and our relationship to Him. Very important day. And so I think it was Buzzy Bavasi was the general manager of the Dodgers. Now, you know Sandy's Jewish, right? You should know. So he asked Sandy, he said, you know, Sandy, I need you to pitch the first game of the World Series. You're our number one pitcher. Sandy said, well, that falls on Yom Kippur. Buzzy Bavasi was ready for a response. And he says, Sandy, don't play games with me. I know you're not religious. I know you're not going to go to temple. You're going to be on the mound. Sandy says, I'm not going to do it. Buzzy Bavasi says, tell you what, I'll make it easier for you. Just throw out the first pitch, and you're going to get $50,000. Now, you know how much we paid for a Coke back then? A nickel. Can you imagine how far $50,000? It would be like $5 million today. He said, I'm not going to do it. Bavasi was completely distraught. His number one ace pitcher. And then he says, Sandy, what's the reason here? What's going on? He goes, I'm going to do this out of respect for my parents. Now, I know a lot of Orthodox Jews that would have a very difficult time turning down $5 million to throw out a pitch on Yom Kippur. Am I speaking in jest? I'll let you figure that out. Now, right, just throw out the pitch. He wouldn't do it. He respected his mother and father. Never to be seen in a synagogue, praying or whatever. No. But where did he get this notion? What's going on? What's going on here? This really requires a little bit of depth, I think, which we don't have time for. But that's one of the mitzvahs, one of the commandments of this week's parsha of the Torah. Torah is going through a series of different mandates that are required of everybody that believes in the Torah, and even people that don't. I mean, it's funny how the Torah has infected the entire world. Infected's a weird word. Spread through the whole world. It's pretty basic that people honor their mother and father. Not all the time. Anybody that does that got that from us, by the way. What does it mean why does the Torah say honor? It says literally honor your father and mother, and not honor your mother and father. Many of you, or some of you for sure, have heard this talk. And there's a very interesting philosophy being presented. Not all the time do we honor our father, but we do honor our mother. Most of us are going to say we love our mother and therefore honor her. But the Torah goes out of its way to make a distinction here. The father is not somebody that you might honor, because a lot of times he's the one that sets the standards in the family and has to get real with the kids. And a lot of times there's friction growing up, as we see. Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Couldn't have been more contentious than that. And so too throughout the history of the Jewish people and all people in the world. There was always this struggle for domination, for importance, for influence in families. So the Torah goes out of its way to say, no, honor your father and your mother. Later on, it's going to talk about the respect and the love that we pay toward our mother. That's in a different chapter to be discussed. But one of the things that we do is we don't talk when he's speaking, right? We don't contradict him, and we don't sit in a seat at the table, right? Those are some of the things that are pointed out as certain attributes that we must display if we're going to do that mitzvah to its fulfillment. So this is something that is cardinal in Jewish law, and as we mentioned, in other areas. When we talk about MISHPATIM in general, the name of this week's Torah section, and laws, I had to talk with somebody about this, and I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question. Let's say I believe that murder is cool. I feel that that's part of my deity. God forbid. But let's say, for example, theoretically, what's the problem? And the guy that I was talking to said, well, that's completely outrageous. I said, why? Where does it say that you're not supposed to murder? And then he says, well, it says it in the Bible. Really? Do you believe that? The same Bible that said that Noah built an ark and all the animals were in the ark? Do you believe that? The same Bible that said the Red Sea was split? The same Bible that said that the earth was created in 6 days? By whom? By some being that we can't see, can't hear? Do you believe all that? These are things that really touch to the depth of our souls, of our collective soul, anyway. And it's to stand on one leg and to philosophize about some of the things that are so profound. Of course, at this time isn't really germane, but this is the issue that each one of us is faced with. Studying Torah is learning the mitzvahs, learning the commandments. By the way, the word mitzvah comes from the word tzavta. Tzavta means to be with, to be together with. Do you know anybody that's spoken to God? I don't. If you do, be sure to let me know who it is so I can stay away from the person. They're probably crazy. We're talking about an omnipotent being who created something out of nothing called ex nihilo, meaning the world. And we are told that the world is kept alive 24/7, every second of the day, through his power. If he were to see that, and we saw that in Sodom and Gomorrah, and we saw that during the flood, the great flood in Babylon. We saw that when things went awry, or I should say awry, the world was in danger because life turned into a hell on earth where people were abusing each other and stealing and doing all kinds of things. So anyway, my partner here in this discussion conceded to me that my points have relevancy. Not that I was looking to win an argument or something, but the whole concept of MISHPATIM, of laws, and in particular the honoring of one's father and mother. And by the way, it doesn't say to love your father, but it does say to respect him. How many people that we know that are Orthodox Jews or even religious Christians, they have very difficult relationships with their father. They may not love him, but they'll respect him and not dishonor him. That's something else. And indeed, there's a lot of people that have fathers that are wicked or something unseemly, and it's a very difficult situation. So therefore, the Torah says, honor your father and your mother, or respect, right? And so this is the whole point. We see this played in social issues in society where there's no father figure. Where there's no father figure, I promise you, there's probably not much deterrence, as it were, to use a word, in terms of the kids growing up. A lot of inner city kids are bedeviled with, 70% of the kids don't have a father. Many of them don't have parents at all. They're raised by grandparents or aunts and uncles. And this absolutely has an impact on our society, as we can clearly see. But it's the father that is the driving force for showing what is right, and if need be, implementing all these things. I'm not going to use force, but I'm going to say there's a deterrent factor. When the father says something, it's different than when the mother says something. We all know that. So that's this week's Torah portion. And at the very end of the Drash in the Shel HaKadosh, a Kabbalistic master, and he brings the quote from Isaiah that Sion b'mishpat tipadeh, that Zion, meaning the Jewish people and Israel, will be redeemed through mishpat, meaning Torah study. It says that Torah study is juxtaposed to all the other mitzvahs, all the other commandments. Why is that? When you are connected with the Torah, you're connected with the person that gave us the Torah. There's a bond. It's hard to imagine, but it's true. And we see that when you're connected with the Torah, you don't go too far astray in terms of, off the rails somewhere. You're pretty well grounded. But be that as it may, that's the overview of this week's Parsha. Having said what we did, we can only wish that we would all do a little bit more Torah learning, have a partner, maybe a group, learn some of the things that are eternal values that we cherish, all of us, as a people, and even people that are outside of our religion have taken to task studying a lot of these issues. So with that, I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom, and we should use this opportunity to think about doing more Torah study. Each one of us can find certainly a couple more minutes each week to open up a book and read something very profound and very spiritual that will help us in our daily lives. Anyway, God bless everybody. Shabbat Shalom, and we should only have good news for all of us. God bless.